How's it going, everybody? This is Koo from Money Minded Apes. Today, we're going to go over what you need to get started and how to set up an ARIO Gateway on a Raspberry Pi. So, what is an ARIO Gateway and why do I want to run one? Well, in most basic terms, it just connects to Arweave and helps serve data. And we are running one for Money Minded Apes because we've uploaded our images and JSON files to our drive, and we can serve our own NFT files from our own gateway. The minimum requirements are listed on ARIO's website, and the Raspberry Pi 4 with 4 gigabytes that we're going to go with just meets those minimum requirements. We are going to use a 2 terabyte solid state drive, and I went with the Armor case, but I probably would choose a different one next time. This is what it should look like after you have your Raspberry Pi assembled in the case. First, you're going to want to go to the Raspberry Pi website and download their Raspberry Pi Imager software for whatever operating system you're running on your computer. I'm running a Mac, so that's what we're going to download. And while you're downloading this, it's a good time to connect your solid state drive and or micro SD to the computer that you're going to flash the operating system for the Raspberry Pi to. In my experience, I did have to use a micro SD card when using the Ubuntu server operating system. So in the Imager tool, you'll select your device, Raspberry Pi 4. You'll come down to other general purpose operating system, click on Ubuntu, and then we're going to be using Ubuntu Desktop or Server 22.04.4 64-bit. I'm using the server version. After you choose your operating system version, you will choose the storage. Since I'm using server version, I'm going to flash the same to both the SD card and the SSD later. In the OS customization settings, you are going to want to edit these settings. Give your device an easy to remember name, set your username and password. If you're not using the Ethernet connection that I recommend, configure your wireless LAN for the server version. If you're using desktop, it's easy enough to do later. And make sure you set your locale. After this, there's another tab in the middle for services. You're going to want to go to that tab and enable SSH here. All right, with the settings customized, come back here, and yes, you want to apply those settings. Yes, you want to write whatever's on that micro SD, if anything. Make sure there's nothing on it, back up your data or whatever. This is going to take a minute. It'll be much faster to write to the SSD than the micro SD. Remember, the micro SD is only necessary, in my experience, if running Ubuntu server version, which I do recommend. It seems to run better, or the gateway seems to run better on Ubuntu server as opposed to Ubuntu Desktop. But Ubuntu Desktop is an option. I have an 8 gigabyte Raspberry Pi running a gateway on the Ubuntu Desktop version. Now that this is finished, do the same thing for the solid state drive unless you're only running on a solid state drive. Now that we've got the operating system flashed, we'll connect everything. In the top right, we've got the Ethernet cable at port 7. The hard drive is going to go in the spot 6 there, the USB 3.0. 4 and 5 there are optional. Those are both mouse and keyboard in my case. Number 3 is optional. That is the mini HDMI cable with HDMI on the other end. In spot 1 there, that's where your micro SD card goes, and spot 2, that's for the power cord. The first thing I like to do is to update everything that's already installed. I'm running as the root user, so I don't need to worry about typing sudo or entering my password. And we're just going to apt update, and apt upgrade -y says yes to anytime it asks, are you sure you want to install? And then we'll wait a minute for that to happen. All right, we're just going to move right down along the left-hand side. Everything in mine's already installed, so I'm going to move really quick. First, we're going to install Nginx, then we're going to install Git, then we're going to install Docker Compose. We're going to test it with Docker Run Hello World. Then we're going to install certbot. There is a command at the top of this. If you just copy and paste the whole thing, it'll do it all in one step. I don't need to install SSH server because I'm running the Ubuntu server option, or the Ubuntu server OS. We're already running that. We're going to copy and paste the curl stuff to install that. Copy and paste the stuff to install Node Version Manager there. If you're already running Node Version Manager, you can just run nvm install 2011-1, and if you want to use that by default, I think it's nvm use default 2011-1. We're going to install Build Essentials, which essentially is just G, CC, G++, C++, make stuff that goes along with the C programming language, and we're going to install SQLite there. After that, I already have this, so I'm not going to actually do that, but copy and paste, git clone the main branch there, and grab the AR node and CD into it. I like to do this straight in my root folder, and then CD into ARIO node. I already have a .env file made, so I'm not going to make a new one. It's up there somewhere. But you would nano.env to make a new one, copy and paste this stuff into it, and then replace your domain in the brackets with your domain name. Replace your wallet there and your wallet there with your wallet addresses. Whatever address you're using, you need the key file for that address, and you'll need to copy it to the wallet folder or wallets folder inside the ARIO node folder. You can copy that from another device using this secure file transfer protocol, or recreate it, like copy and paste nano.env, the new file. Make sure that the wallet file is named the same as your wallet address.json. Now, you're going to want to Docker compose up -d to run this thing. If you're running it for the first time, it's going to take a minute. Took me probably 20-30 minutes to get this node up and running the first time. Mine's already running, so it was pretty quick there. You can shut it down with Docker compose down and run the logs with that other command there. Next, you're going to need to figure out what your public IP address is for your network, and you're going to need to figure out your device IP address. You can use curl ifconfig.me or go to whatsmyip.org to figure out your public IP address. One way to figure out what your device IP address is to install NetTools with apt install net-tools and then run the command ifconfig. Another way would just be to log into your router, and you can usually view the connected devices. Find if you gave it a friendly name at the beginning, it should show that name in the router connected devices. Once you have your public network IP address and your device IP address, you're going to need to log into your domain management platform. I'm using Hostinger here, and we need to point the domain root and any subdomains to my home public IP address and add that record there. Once we get that record added, we can request the SSL certificate, and we'll do that with the command certbot, cert only, add your email there. We're going to use preferred challenges as DNS, add your domain at the end there, and asterisk dot your domain dot whatever it is at the very last one there. You're going to type all that out into the terminal. I'm not going to actually do it because I already have these certbots issued, but I'll kind of show you how I would do it if my domain were called mydomain.com. After you enter this, it will prompt you to create 2 new text records using your domain management provider. Okay, now that you're following the certbot, it's going to have you add text records in your DNS settings. They're both going to be called underscore acme underscore challenge. Just copy and paste the text value for the first one, click add record, hit enter in the terminal to get the second record, copy and paste that one, hit add record again, and then continue through the prompts in certbot, and you should be good to go. The last thing you're going to want to do is go to your router settings and forward ports 443 and 80 to whatever your IP address is for your gateway. And that's it. Now that that's done, you can check and see if you get this, it's running. And if you have ARNS, like we have for the Money Minded Apes images, we'll go ahead and enter that one. Once we enter the correct one that we have, it will load the XRP King here at the end. Congratulations, you now have your first Raspberry Pi ARIO Gateway running.